Time for some tunes. All right. Oh. Oh, God. Oh, no, I can't. Hello, happy people, and welcome to your Moment of Zed, the YouTube channel dedicated to the most beautiful car in the world, the BMW Z3, or as the folks in Coaldale call it, the Z3. I'm Mark, and today I'm going to start dealing with a problem that I've had for a long time that many of you have, our old lousy stereo system. Now, my biggest problem, I think, is that the subwoofer in the box between the seats is blown. I think it is. I've thought that for a long time. The funny thing is, I was listening to my car stereo yesterday, and now it almost sounds like the cracking speaker is the one in the passenger side kick panel. Either way, I'm going to end up replacing all this stuff eventually, but I'm going to start with that subwoofer, and plus the cover for that subwoofer box is cracked, and I cracked it when I was changing out the rear shocks. If you've done that job, you understand how I could do that. But as you can see, it looks terrible. I want to get rid of that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an entire box, a speaker box to put in there, and we're going to have the subwoofer mounted at the top of that box. So first step is to remove the old one, but before we get to that, we have 3 Zeds of the week. And first up, we have Kermit from Louisiana with his 1997 2.8 liter 5-speed roadster with 107,000 miles. Now, he's replaced the instrument cluster, put in a new drive shaft, guibo, brakes, tires. He's refreshed the cooling system and put in a new evaporator. He often takes it on long rural drives in Louisiana. He also has a second Z3, but it's up for sale. It's a 2001 2.5 liter that he says is in great condition. It may be sold already. Speaking of 2 Z3s, we have Zach and Ethan from San Antonio, Texas, who have a 2000 M Roadster and a 1999 2.8 liter automatic. Now, the M has had the seat bushings done and a TC Klein suspension installed and has the antenna deleted for a cleaner look. The 1999 has custom paint with blue pearl in it, new BBS wheels, and a muffler and resonator delete. Very cool. And last but not least, Greg from Naples, Florida, who is a longtime viewer and longtime owner of this 1997 1.9 liter 5-speed Roadster. He bought it in 2000 with 6,000 miles. It now has 70,000 miles. He's done the glove box fix, seat bushings, put on a new top. He has a satellite radio with upgraded speakers and the BMW windscreen. He has also had his seats redone by a gentleman in his area. So if you're in Southwest Florida, this is a great resource. I will put this gentleman's information in the description. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your beautiful cars. If you'd like to see your car on Zed of the Week, please follow the easy instructions in the description below, as always. And now we're going to remove that old subwoofer and build the new box. Okay, so here's my cracked box cover, as you can see. Now, I did a YouTube short about how to remove this, so take a look at that if you're not sure. I loosened mine up already, so it comes right out. And there is the top of the box that contains the subwoofers. There's 2 of them in there. Just wanted to kind of also say that as I do this, I am not a big audiophile. I like music and I like to listen to music. You may not agree with the equipment I buy or the techniques I use. I am not an expert. I'm learning this as I go. There's a lot to know when it comes to car stereos. So I'm just going to do the best I can with the budget I have, which is limited. And I think at the end of the day, I just want a system that isn't cracking every time the bass hits, and that, you know, I can live with and sounds a little bit better and looks a little bit better than that cracked thing I just removed. Okay, so the subwoofer itself held on by 4 screws, Phillips screws, and we're just going to go ahead and remove those. Okay, now we're looking from the center console towards the back. And by the way, you may have a different setup. This is not the only setup that the Z3 came with. As my understanding is, this is the Harman Kardon system, the HK system. Pretty common for a lot of you, but there's people who have something different. So if this is not how yours looks, I apologize. But the next step we need to do is to pull this grill off, and just with my fingers, I'm going to pop the bottom. And it just pops out and then kind of slides down, and there's that grill for the speaker. And we'll set that aside. And now what you're looking at is the snorkel that comes out of the subwoofer box itself. That just wiggles out, and you can just, it's rubber. You can just pull that out, and that's that. And probably should vacuum in there a little bit, but now we're ready to pull this thing out, and if we can, disconnect the wire. All right, so I simply pulled the box up and out, and that slides right up. And I rested it on a towel because I'm trying not to break any more plastic. And then the connector had me flummoxed for a little while. And this is typical Z3, the old plastic connectors. So I thought you would slide the big part of the connector this way and then disconnect the wires from the car. And excuse the focus, but what I ended up having to do was squeeze these two tabs, and that released backwards off the wiring from the subwoofer box itself. And then it's going to be almost impossible to see. Let me zoom in a little bit. But right there, kind of sticking out from the main part of that clearish white plastic, is a little tab that needs to come this way towards the camera, and then you can slide that whole thing, this whole wiring harness clip out towards the front of the car. Okay, I had a real wrestling match with that, and I was going to take apart some more of the plastic off, but I finally figured out, again, sometimes just better to experiment. What you're looking at is that clip coming from the speaker itself, and to remove that from that little slide there, that little plastic slide, to remove that, and you're looking at it from the back side where it goes in, this little tab needs to go up. And I said towards me, but I was wrong. It needs to go up. Had I realized that at first, would have made my life a lot easier instead of trying to squeeze it places it wouldn't go. So there's your tip of the day. And there is the actual subwoofer. Again, you've got an HK speaker, might be 5 1/4 on that side facing back, and then inside the box, hard to see, but you've got another one facing towards the snorkel. This is the snorkel opening, so that's what we're getting rid of. I'm starting to think this isn't blown, but regardless, I want to get a better subwoofer for this car. Okay, last thing to clean up our opening, I'm going to go ahead and take off this bracket for the lid. That's just for Phillips screws, and I'm also going to remove the side brackets for the subwoofer, the old subwoofer itself. These are just 3 10mm bolts. So we'll pull that out, and we'll have a nice clean opening to work with. Okay, and there's what we're left with as far as the opening goes, and we will start building our box. Okay, so the first thing I did was to build a cardboard and tape mock-up of the box, just as a proof of concept and to make sure that the box fits, and it does, fits like a glove. So I'm going to use that as a template and to give me the external dimensions, the maximum size I can make the box and still have it fit in this space. Do not worry, I will give you those dimensions towards the end of the video when I actually build the box and the real box fits. Okay, so the next thing I'm doing is I'm getting ready to use my broken lid as a template to make my new lid. So I just have to remove the plastic inside, black plastic inside, from the tan plastic outside, just removing all those machine screws, and then I'm going to use that top part as a template. And there it is, separated. And as you can see, of course, things were so welded on here that the plastic actually broke off of the top of the lid and stuck to the bottom, which it never was part of, 3 different places. So that's typical BMW interior plastic, I guess. Not going to reuse it, so it doesn't really matter. Again, I use the top part of the lid as a template to go ahead and draw the lines I'm going to cut. Now I did it twice because this is 1/2" MDF, medium density fiberboard. It's a pretty common thing to use for a speaker box, although usually I think most people use 3/4. I'm going to use a 1/2 for a couple reasons. Number one, I need to double it up. I need to glue these 2 parts together to get me the thickness of this, or close to it. It's even not quite, and then I'll have to route it, but we'll get that later. And also, I think the thinner material is going to give me a little bit more open space inside the speaker box, because we don't have much space to work with. I think if I were going to do it, you know, super duper perfect, I'd get a piece of 3/4 for the rest of the box, and again, double up this 1/2" for the top. I couldn't find any 1" MDF. Not sure if they make it. I am not a woodworker. So there's the 2 halves cut out of what will be the new lid or mount for the speaker. Not perfect, but not bad for a circular saw and a coping saw. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these together, clamp them down. Okay, I just wanted to show what I did with the lid a little bit more in detail. I bonded the 2 pieces of wood I cut out using the old lid as a template. As you saw, I just bonded them together with wood glue and clamps. The problem is that there's a kind of a pretty big curve that the original lid follows, and I wanted to try and get that close with my new lid. It's going to be covered in black vinyl, so it's not critical, but I just wanted to make it look a little bit closer to the original shape. To do that, my buddy Steve, thank you Steve, took his router to it. Now that works out okay for the sides, which aren't heavily curved, but the front and back have really big curves, and I traced them out here in pen. And there's no routing bit that I'm aware of that I could find that matches this curve, so I ended up having to hand sand it down close to the original curve. But if I went all the way to the original curve, I was going to start impinging on where the actual speaker is going to screw into the lid, so I kind of stopped short. So I mimicked it kind of as best I could. It looks more correct, but it's not perfect. Okay. The box is done, and I'm going to go over all the dimensions and how I built it in a minute, but I just wanted to show that I missed the dimensions by a smidge. What's happening is the box is pressing against these plastic screw holes in the back plastic piece that the lid used to secure to, and as you can see, it's making a gap. Now, the easy thing to do would be to get rid of these, and actually on my car, they don't do anything. But I'm going to keep it original, and instead I'll modify my box, and I'll just kind of make space for these, and then actually the box is going to lock right in, and I'm going to show you as well that the lid fits great. So here is the lid, and that sits right up on top of the box, and it sits right where it should. And it will look fine once it's all done. So pretty happy with that. Again, not perfect because we couldn't mimic the curve perfectly, but overall it's going to look like it is where it's supposed to be. All right, so before I give the dimensions, I just wanted to say that I researched this quite a bit before I started it. There's other videos where they build this box, but they don't give you the dimensions, and I don't really blame them. It's been a job, to say the least. There's also a video I've linked with a drop-in solution. Apparently someone on Etsy used to sell a box but it was like $200, and the guy in the video wasn't that impressed with the workmanship, and he ended up having to shave the box down anyway, so he had to adjust it. This whole box probably cost me $50, maybe. Again, 1/2-inch MDF, wood glue, small nails, excuse the craftsmanship, all done by hand tools. If you have better tools and more experience, yours will come out much better. Anyways, here's the dimensions adjusted for the fact that mine was too wide. So 13 3/8 on all the long dimensions going side to side. For centimeters, multiply by 2.54. 3 1/4 here. Again, mine's actually 3 1/2, but I've cut down 1/4 to avoid you having to notch out the back for those plastic tabs. Or you could just remove the plastic tabs and go the full distance like I did, whichever you prefer. 6 1/8 high here. On the side, again, I've cut this down, so this would be 2 1/4. Mine's 2 1/2. 6 1/8 high at the highest point. 4 7/8 here to here from the long end of this angle to here. 3 7/16 here to here. I know if you go 3 1/2, you'll probably be okay. Again, you can see how I've built it, how I've placed the pieces like this. And here, 13 3/8 long, and this front vertical piece 2 1/4 high. The more complicated pieces, this kind of front shelf, 13 3/8 side to side. You have to cut these two angles, this corner to this corner, 7 inches. From here to this corner, 3 1/4, and on the actual side from here to here, 2 3/8. Going to these pieces, here's what I'd do. I'd cut the front of this at the end of the long angle 7 inches to match this corner to corner. I would do a better job than me. Should have listened more in geometry class 40 years ago. I do a better job of measuring these angles. And once you have the angles fitting nicely, which I didn't, then you can figure out the length from here to here and here to here, which obviously should match. But again, 3 7/16 high on all these pieces. Again, I'm gonna have to put some caulk in because I really screwed up the angle. However, the box is done. If you decide to do it, I wish you nothing but luck. So folks, there you have it. Really not that complicated of a project. Now that you have the dimensions, if you have the right tools, especially a table saw, that would be very helpful. As I said, next video we'll wrap everything up, get this installed, make it look pretty. Hopefully it will work. If you found this content valuable, as always, please crush that like button. And until next time, remember, friends don't let friends drive boring.